I was getting ready to go to my mother-in-law's funeral after she passed away recently when suddenly my phone rang. "Don't you dare come to the funeral, go back to your parents' house right now," a voice ordered. Confused, but following the instructions, I immediately headed back to my parents' home in the countryside. Later, I learned from my husband about his troublesome older sister, Lily. "So, Mom's gone, how much of the inheritance do I get?" Her audacity to talk about money after their mother's death made me furious. I promised myself I'd protect my mother-in-law's legacy and stand up to this greedy sister-in-law. After a heated argument, Lily ended up in trouble, facing serious consequences. "My name is Anna, a regular housewife. I'm married to James, who works in a company, and we've always been happy together. I know many women face challenges with their husband's family after marriage, especially with their mother-in-law, but I've been fortunate in that regard. I had a great relationship with my mother-in-law, Carol. One time, she asked me, 'Anna, what do you think of this sweater? I knitted it for you because I thought it would suit you.' 'For me? Thank you, it's lovely, and you're such a skilled knitter,' I replied. 'I'm glad you like it. It's getting chilly, so make sure you stay warm.' 'Of course, hey, would you mind teaching me how to knit sometime?' It was simple moments like this that made Carol so special. She always smiled warmly, and I loved her like a second mother. She had helped us out financially at times, too. Then, one day, I got the heartbreaking news from James. Mom passed away in the hospital. I couldn't believe it at first. Carol had been battling cancer for years, and although I knew she was sick, I hadn't expected her to be gone so soon. It was hard to eat or think straight, but I knew I had to accept it and keep moving forward. Whenever I visited, she always greeted me with a smile, trying to stay strong for us. I decided I would attend her funeral with a smile to honor her memory, but as I was getting ready, my phone rang, and it was James. "Wait, what? You want me to go back to my parents' house? Why are you so panicked?" "Sorry, there's been a situation at the funeral home. I'll explain everything when we meet," he said. I was confused by his words. What could have gone wrong? He was more anxious than I'd ever seen him. "Okay, calm down. I'll do what you said and head to my parents' house. I'll take a cab and be there soon. Bye." With that, he hung up. Even though I had no idea what was going on, I trusted James, so I changed my plans and headed to my parents' house instead of going to the funeral. "Anna, what's happening? Isn't today Carol's funeral? Come inside, we'll talk," they said when I arrived. They were just as confused as I was, but without James there, we couldn't figure out what was happening. We waited anxiously for him to show up. About an hour later, James arrived, looking stressed. "Anna, are you okay?" "I'm fine, but what happened to your hand?" I asked, noticing his bandaged hand. James winced and explained what had happened at his parents' house. Apparently, James had an older sister named Lily, but Lily wasn't a good daughter. She'd been a troublemaker since she was young. She'd had countless run-ins with the law, and their mother, Carol, had always tried to protect her, even taking responsibility for her mistakes and debts. "I promise I'll pay you back, please, Mom," Lily said, and her mother believed her, but Lily betrayed that promise and left home, cutting ties with my husband's family. They hadn't heard from her until today. Then, on the day of her mother's funeral, Lily showed up at their house. After all this time, you'd think she'd have changed, but instead, the first thing she said was, "So, Mom's dead, right? How much of the inheritance do I get?" My husband was furious. "That's your first question after Mom's death?" He angrily told his sister that she had been disinherited long ago. To Carol, her real daughter was no longer Lily, it was me, Anna. "What, Anna? Who's that woman? It's ridiculous that she can inherit instead of me." Lily was livid when she found out the truth. Her face turned red with anger. She grabbed my husband's phone and stormed out of the house, shouting nasty things at us. Apparently, the injury to my husband's hand was from her biting him. I immediately locked his phone remotely, but it seemed Lily had already found our house's location and my picture from the contact list and photos. "I can't believe this," I said. I was shocked by my husband's words. I had no idea Carol even had a daughter, let alone one like Lily. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you about my sister. It's a family issue." "But now," my husband said, looking guilty and upset. We tried to figure out what to do next and to calm my husband down. "We should probably stay away from our city house for a while, just in case," he suggested. "Is our rural home safe?" I asked. "Yes, I didn't keep that address on my phone for security reasons. We'll stay at the rural house for now." The next morning came, the sun rose, and the birds were chirping. "I'm off to work. If anything happens, call me on my spare phone. Have a good day," he said. I watched my husband drive off to work, smiling on the outside, but on the inside, I was filled with worry. What if Lily came here? What if she tried to hurt me? These thoughts kept spinning in my head. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her angry face at my husband's family home, but to my surprise, Life at our rural home was calm, days passed without incident, and the tension slowly eased. I started to think that maybe this problem with Lily would just go away. Then, things changed. "Excuse me, are James and Anna at home?" That day, a police officer from the local station came to our house. What's this about?" I asked nervously, sensing something bad was coming, and I was right. Apparently, our city house had been broken into. The police had just received a call from the scene. I quickly contacted my husband to tell him what had happened, and we rushed back to the house together. When we arrived, it was clear the place had been trashed. Every drawer was open, and things were scattered everywhere, as if a storm had passed through. "Is anything missing?" the officer asked. "We'll see," we replied, and we began checking our belongings under the officer's watch. Our bank books and other valuables seemed safe, but a few $100s that should have been in the dresser were gone. The officer also told us that a suspicious woman had been seen near our house several times over the past few days. She had been heard shouting things like, "Come out and pay me back, James." "Could that be?" I started to ask. "I'm pretty sure it's Lily," my husband said, looking at me. We explained everything to the police: the funeral fight, the stolen phone, my husband's injured hand. The police seemed to understand quickly, likely because we'd already reported the phone theft. After giving a more detailed statement at the police station, we didn't get back to the rural home until it was dark. The burglar was caught soon after, as we had suspected. It was Lily. The police said she had been staying in a hotel near our house after the break-in. She was caught while getting a massage from room service, using the money she had stolen from us. Even though she admitted to the crime, she denied it was burglary. It seemed like things were more complicated when family was involved. Later, we were called back to the police station. We were led into a room where Lily, looking sulky, was sitting. She suddenly spoke up, furious. "James, how could you do this to your own family? This is unbelievable." Lily had no guilt at all. She didn't even think she had done anything wrong. According to her, she didn't break into the house to steal. She claimed she came to talk about inheritance, but since we weren't there, she had no choice but to break the window to get in. As for the money, she said she just needed it to stay somewhere nearby. In other words, it was all our fault. Her selfish thinking shocked me. To think that someone so dangerous was angry with me, it made me wonder what could have happened if I'd run into her alone. I shuddered just thinking about it. Meanwhile, my husband and Lily were arguing loudly. "You've got some nerve showing up after all these years and acting like you're still part of the family. Give me back my phone." Fine, I'll give it back. You locked it so quickly, I couldn't even use it. And family? You and Mom cut ties with me a long time ago, so, you have no claim to her inheritance." "Are you kidding me? She gave everything to a stranger's daughter instead of her own?" Lily sneered. "Was Mom out of her mind?" I couldn't take it anymore. "Please stop disrespecting Carol," I shouted. I was furious that Lily was speaking so poorly of my mother-in-law, but Lily just glared at me and responded with an annoyed tone. "You're that Christian woman, right? The one who stole the inheritance that was supposed to be mine?" "No, I didn't steal anything," I shot back. Lily leaned in, glaring at me so intensely that I froze. Her stare was so cold, I couldn't find the words. She seemed to know exactly how to rattle me, and when she saw me hesitate, she laughed, as if she'd won. Just then, the police officer sitting with us cleared his throat and stepped in. "Let's all calm down. There's a lot going on, so why don't you all have a family discussion first? We can talk about the charges later," he said, diffusing the tension. Later, we arranged a formal meeting at my in-laws' house. Carol's relatives gathered in the living room, the air thick with tension, and it was Lily who spoke first. "If you give me my share of the inheritance, I'll forget all the rude things that happened in the past. You should be grateful to me." Lily continued to act arrogantly. It wasn't surprising. Someone who hadn't changed in over 10 years wasn't going to suddenly change now. Every time she spoke, she kept repeating, "Give me the inheritance, drop the charges." Of course, we had no intention of giving in to her demands. We had told her repeatedly, "You were disinherited, so you can't have any of Carol's inheritance." "Well, then why don't you give me some money after you get the inheritance?" she asked. "That idea is ridiculous," my husband said, clearly frustrated. I calmed him down, then turned to Lily, trying my best to stay calm. "Lily, did you read all of Carol's will? There was a section about you." "I only care about the inheritance part, the rest is probably just her complaints about me." "No, Carol was worried about you. She regretted how things turned out." "Well, then she should have given me the inheritance," Lily scoffed. Her selfishness infuriated me, but it also made me feel deeply sad. She saw her own mother, Carol, as nothing more than a tool. I couldn't hold back anymore. "Carol didn't give you any money because she knew she couldn't change you with it. I can't let someone like you have a cent of Carol's money," I said firmly. "You're saying that? You have some nerve." Considering you're not even blood related, Lily snapped. For a moment, she faltered. Her eyes narrowed, glaring at me with an ugly, terrifying expression, but this time, I didn't look away. There's nothing more to discuss, please leave, I said, holding her gaze. Suddenly, Lily lunged at me across the table, either out of anger or fear, but my husband and other family members quickly restrained her. 10 minutes later, the police arrived and escorted her out. As they put her into the patrol car, she kept shouting insults, but by the time she was driven away, she was slumped over, defeated. Later, I found out that Lily ended up in prison. Our report had been accepted, and it turned out Lily had a lot of debt from loan sharks. Her obsession with the inheritance was likely because of this hidden issue. She would now live a miserable life, locked away from the world. She just didn't understand what real love was. She made her choices, and now she had to face the consequences. As my husband and I sat in our now peaceful home, he offered incense in front of my mother-in-law's portrait. I was surprised, Anna, to see you argue so bravely. Well, that's because I read Mother-in-Law's will again, I explained. The truth was, I had read Carol's will again the day before confronting Lily. I hadn't had the chance to carefully go through it before. The will was filled with Carol's heartfelt feelings, almost like a letter to us. Every word she wrote stirred my emotions. Carol had always been worried about her daughter, without holding any grudges. She cared about her well-being and left this world hoping for happiness for James and me. She wanted to do so much more for her real daughter. I held my cardigan tightly, tears welling up as I thought about Carol. Seeing me upset, my husband tried to cheer me up. Anna, would you knit something for me too? Sure, I'll show you how your mom used to knit, I said with a smile, wiping away my tears. We'll make good use of her inheritance. From then on, I promised myself to live a happy life, not only for my own sake but also for Carol's.